Hello, Tony here again. And my objective here is to make you aware of some real earth-shattering events that have happened in which our Queen and beloved Mother, the Virgin Mary, has appeared and proclaimed messages from Almighty God. God is allowing the Virgin Mary to warn us of a catastrophic chastisement if people do not amend their lives. Our Blessed Mother has appeared many, many times throughout the centuries with many messages, warnings, and what I found is that they are all interconnected, and they all tell of a coming prophecy of some great events. Please check out some of my other videos for more insight. Right now, I feel an alarming sense of imminent danger, along with the urgent need to tell as many people as I can. These events are right on our horizon. As my first video covered the events prophesied in Fatima in 1917, I'm going to jump to 1961 to the Garabandal events, which I have found studying these that they are all interconnected and they prophesied of the same events. You will find in listening to this events of Garabandal that they're just amazing, and you wonder why you haven't heard of them before. Well, to tell you the truth, I hadn't heard of it either until I started doing a little research. But there's so much that happened during this event in Garabandal that began in 1961 and lasted until 1965. It would be very difficult to address all the supernatural events that happened there during this 4-year period. These included levitations, ecstatic marches, reading of thoughts, insensitivity to pain, many healings, and supernatural knowledge. So let us get started right away. It all began in a small village in 1961 of approximately 70 homes in northern Spain called Garabandal. 4 young girls, one 11 years old and the other 3 12, named Mary Loli, Conchita, Jacinta, and Mary Cruz. As I said, it was a small town, and there was a center of the town where everybody met after church. And the 4 girls had decided to slip away from the adults that had gathered at the town square and jump over a small stone wall and steal some apples from their schoolmaster's orchard. After completing their daring escapade and their bellies full of apples, they began to feel remorse for what they had done. So they consoled their consciences by throwing stones at their perception of the devil. Then they settled down to play a game of marbles. Suddenly, Conchita looks up and is frozen in stare. So much so that the other girls became alarmed, and one started to rise to go get help from the adults. Then she heard Conchita say, "Look over there." They all turned and looked and saw a beautiful figure in dazzling white. They whispered, "The angel." No longer had they said the words than the figure disappeared. The visibly shaken girls ran to the church, but they did not go inside because of the apple theft, so they stood behind the church and cried. Word quickly spread throughout the village, and the village priest was told of the event, and he questioned each girl individually. And he decided they had seen something that had upset them very much. The next evening, the girls went back to what was called the Sunken Lane, or the Pines, and they said the rosary in hopes of seeing the angel again, but nothing happened. The following evening, the girls again returned to the lane and said the rosary once more. They had just finished the rosary and were turning to head back home when a bright light appeared, blocking their path. The girls screamed in terror and the light disappeared. Then they ran home. The next evening, the girls returned again to the sunken lane. This time they had the company of 2 older women, as they were frightened to be there by themselves. They had just finished the rosary, and suddenly the 4 girls dropped to their knees simultaneously, with their eyes wide open and not blinking, and their heads queen back in a very unusual position. The people that were there were astonished at the girl's reactions. As instructed by the priest when he had talked to them, he said if it appeared again to ask the angel who he was and what he wanted. They did so, and the angel just smiled and then disappeared. And just as quickly as the girls regained their normal composure. The next evening, the girls again returned to the lane, along with many of the villagers, including the parish priest, their teacher, their parents, and lots of townsfolk to pray the rosary. They had just finished praying the rosary, and the girls dropped to their knees and fell into ecstasy. While they're in ecstasy, the girls' eyes never blinked. Their heads are always craned back, looking straight up. And they found out they were impervious to pain, and they physically became so heavy that two men could not lift a little girl. While in ecstasy, the girls described that they could see each other and the apparition, but nothing else. This began what would become almost a nightly event, witnessed by hundreds, if not thousands of people, as word spread. As you remember, this is 1961, and video cameras and voice recorders were just coming on the scene. And the girls would actually be filmed with bright lights shining into their unblinking eyes until they came out of ecstasy. Then they would immediately shield their eyes from the flash bulbs. During the ecstasies, the girls' appearance even changes. They become softer, more beautiful, almost have a glow to them. There's a lot of film on the internet of the apparitions of Garabandal, of the girls in ecstasy. There's video of them even levitating, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. It all began on June 18, 1961. The girls first saw the angel. Then on June 24, 1961, the girls saw the angel with Roman numerals beneath him, and they asked him what that meant, but he just smiled. On July 1st, 1961, the girls went into ecstasy that lasted for 2 hours, in which they thought was only a couple of minutes, in which the angel spoke to them. He told them tomorrow the Virgin Mary would come. Just as in the Fatima event, the angel prepared the children to meet the Blessed Mother. On July 2nd, 1961, after Mass, the girls made their way to the site where the angel had appeared. The small town was packed with people as the exciting news had spread. Some people formed a crude stone enclosure they called a cordero for the girls to stand to protect them from the huge crowd size. Suddenly, they went into ecstasy and found themselves in the presence of the Virgin Mary, accompanied by two angels. Both the angels were dressed exactly alike and even looked like twins. On the right of the Virgin Mary was a red fired square framing a triangle with an eye in the center of it. The eye was thought to be the eye of God. The girls would talk to the Virgin Mary very comfortably, as if they had known her forever. And the Virgin Mary introduced the angel the girls had first met as Michael the Archangel. The girls described the Virgin Mary as a woman of 17 or 18 years old, wearing a white robe with a blue mantle and wearing a crown of golden stars on her head. Her hands were outstretched, except carrying a brown scapular, except when she was carrying the infant Jesus. They said she was extremely beautiful and had a lovely voice like no other. This description depicts Our Lady of Mount Carmel as we know her today. Witnesses to the ecstasies could hear the girls talking to the Blessed Mother, and it would be talking in almost a low guttural whisper. And again, you can hear it on the tapes today. But you cannot hear what the Blessed Mother is saying to the girls. Most of the time, they would talk about everyday things, just as any young girl would speak to her own mother in a small town. There were times when the Blessed Mother let the girls even handle her crown and put it on, and the girls were seen handling something and trying it on just as if it was a crown. The girls would know that the Blessed Mother is going to appear to them in what they called an interior calling. And it's an experience in which there would be increasing joy, and these would come in 3 callings. And after the 3rd calling, the joy would be so intense that the girls would begin running from wherever they were to get to the sunken lane. The girls would be in 4 different homes throughout the village and somehow simultaneously meet up at the sunken lane. And this was, in that village, there was no phones at the time. The Virgin Mary continued to appear to the 4 girls over the next 4 years at all times of the day and night, sometimes several times in the same day. The visions lasted anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes up to several hours, but usually around a half an hour. The girls always felt like the visions only lasted a couple minutes and could be heard pleading with the Blessed Mother to stay a little longer, that she had just gotten there, even after a couple hours. The girls during the ecstasies could be heard being taught different things, like how to properly recite the rosary very slowly and with intent. Other times being taught different languages such as French or Greek, repeating the word again and again. Before they would make, other times they would make simultaneous gestures like making the sign of the cross as it was being taught. On October 18, 1961, the girls were given a message to share with the whole world. This is that message. People must make many sacrifices and do much penance. And we must pay many visits to the Blessed Sacrament. But first of all, we must be very good. And if we do not do this, a great punishment will befall us. The cup is already filling up. If we do not change, a punishment will come. The message is so simple that many people had doubts that it actually came from the Blessed Mother. People had expected something more earth-shattering. But what we learn from reading the Bible is that God's messages are very often very simple, but they're always very profound. As the apparitions continued, the girls began to walk in ecstasy. With their gazes fixed ever upwards, they would walk forwards and sometimes backwards at impossible speeds. People would be running, trying to keep up with them, and could not. Witnesses said it looked like as if they were gliding on air. In one instance, as the 4 girls were walking in ecstasy, arm in arm through the little town, they came to a small plank crossing a little stream, wide enough for 1 person. 1 girl walked on the plank, while the other 3 walked on air. There were other levitations witnessed by hundreds of people. There were so many supernatural events that happened in Garabandal, I cannot possibly relate them all. But one interesting event involved a young priest named Father Louis Drew. He and his brother, another priest, had heard of the Garabandal's event and had visited in August of 1961. The local priest had been called away urgently and left Father Drew to say Mass at the local church. Witnesses described Father Drew saying the Mass with such fervor that there were actually tears running down his cheeks. Later, that same day, he was with the 4 girls at the Pines when they received an apparition. As he was standing there beside them, he suddenly cried out, "Miracle, miracle, miracle, miracle. Later that evening, as he was in a car being driven away from Garabandal, he stated to the driver of the car that this was the happiest day of his life, and that everything that girls were proclaiming is true, and that we are blessed to have such a loving mother. All of a sudden, the driver heard the father cough once, and then he became very quiet. And the driver asked him, "Father, are you all right?" "Father." Father Louis of Drew, 38 years old, in perfect health, was dead. But that's not the end of the story. A few days later, the girls described an encounter with Father Drew while they were in ecstasy. They said his voice came from a light similar to that that's around the Blessed Mother. And it happened while his brother was present during the apparition. And Father Drew told the girls things that only he and his brother knew. Blessed Mother told the girls that Father Drew had indeed seen her that day in the pines, along with the great miracle that was yet to take place. The apparition continued from 1961 to 1965. The girls would go into ecstasy and all hours of the day and night. And the Virgin Mary became so close with the girls that she was actually known to play games with them. The Blessed Mother would teach them things like to be obedient to their parents, to be obedient to the church, to honor the Blessed Sacrament. Once the Blessed Mother had sent the girls back home to put on longer, more appropriate dresses. It became customary for visitors of the village to leave rosaries and rings for the girls to present to the Blessed Mother for her to kiss them. The visitors would drop all these items off at the girls' home, and there's videos of the girls having hands full of rosaries and rings on every finger. Once an item was kissed by the Blessed Mother, the girls would somehow find the owner of that item, place the rosary around their neck or their ring on their finger, with having no way of knowing who they had belonged to, without ever making a mistake. One time someone had dropped off what would appear to be a powder compact. Those little round things you used to have and people would powder themselves. Well, people didn't think that the Blessed Mother would accept it. But during the next apparition, it was the very first thing that the Blessed Mother asked for. And she said to the girls that it had once belonged to her son. And it turned out that during the Spanish War, when priests were being rounded up, put into jail, and then some of them murdered, that very compact was used to transport Holy Communion to the jailed priests and to soon be martyrs. The girls continued to ask the Blessed Mother to perform a miracle so that all would believe. And it appeared at times during the ecstasies, the girls would go through the motions of receiving Holy Communion. When they were asked about it, they said that the angel would indeed give them communion. The girls proclaimed that the angel taught them how to properly receive Holy Communion using unconsecrated hosts, but later gave them consecrated hosts that he took from the tabernacle. On June 22nd, 1961, the angel told the girls of a coming miracle. He told them, the girls, that God would perform a miracle through the angel and the girls' intercession by allowing the public to see Conchita receiving Holy Communion. The girls told the public of the prophesied miracle that would happen on July 18th. The miracle actually happened on July 19th at 1:30 a.m. and was photographed and actually caught on film, in which you can view to this day. Conchita, on her knees, sticks out her tongue as this camera is watching it, and you can see slowly but surely a white host appears on her tongue. Like I said, by the grace of God, you can still watch this to today. Go on YouTube and type in the miracle of the visible communion. There's also a miraculous story on how this event was actually captured on film. In the 4 years that the girls were having the apparitions and the ecstasies, they were examined by many doctors, psychiatrists, and other medical professionals and found to be quite normal and well adjusted. In January 1965, our mother appeared to Conchita and told her of a new message that would be given to the world from heaven and would be revealed on June 18th, 1965 by St. Michael the Archangel. As news of the coming message spread throughout Spain and the world, the small village was packed with visitors on the day of the message. At the appointed time of 11:30 p.m., Conchita arrived at the sunken lane and almost immediately fell into ecstasy. Among the virtual sea of humanity and high-energy flashbulbs and recorders, her unblinking eyes fixed ever skyward, and her face seems almost transparent. The ecstasy lasted for approximately 20 minutes, and when she emerged from her trance, she immediately shields her eyes from the unceasing flashbulbs, in which a moment before had absolutely no effect on her unblinking eyes. This is that message that she received. As my message of 18th of October has not been complied with and has not been made known to the world, I am telling you this is the last one. Previously, the cup was filling up. It is now brimming over. Many priests, bishops, and cardinals are following the road to perdition, and with them they are taking many more souls. Ever less importance is given to the Holy Eucharist. We should turn the wrath of God away from us by our own efforts. If you ask His forgiveness with a sincere heart, He will pardon you. I, your mother, through the intercession of St. Michael the Archangel, wish to tell you to make amends. You are being given the last warning. I love you very much and do not want your condemnation. Ask us sincerely and we shall grant your plea. You must make more sacrifices. Reflect on the Passion of Christ. What can we learn from this message? Remember, this is 1965. This message infuriated some of the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. But what we now know from history is of the horrible sex scandal that was soon to unfold that shook the church to its knees, and the damage is felt to this day. But what we also must remember that this involved a very small fraction of all the wonderful people who have dedicated their whole lives to serving God and to helping other people. These are the people you never hear of. The sex scandal was a diabolical plan of Satan's to destroy the Catholic Church. We must come together to defend our church and to effectively pass the religion on to the next generation. This is our responsibility. The sacraments are vital. Confession and Holy Communion are essential and are a key to a happy life and a strong marriage. The Blessed Mother also reaffirmed that the Holy Eucharist must be given the honor it deserves. It is essential that we try to appease God by our individual and collective efforts. She says that God will forgive all who sincerely request it. She tells us that she loves each and every one of us. She pleads with us to make more sacrifices and to meditate on the Passion of Christ, her Son. During the 4 years of the apparitions, there was also 3 other major events prophesied, and they are called the warning, the miracle, and the chastisement. I will discuss what we know about each one of these at the end of this video. But before we discuss all that, I want to share with you the last apparition of the Virgin Mary to Conchita on November 13th, 1965. This is the conversation between Virgin Mary and Conchita, verbatim according to the book Apparitions Garabandal and Conchita's own diary. Apparitions of Garabandal was written during all of this. So the conversations let us learn more about our Blessed Mother, her love for us, and even her humor. So when Conchita reached the Pines after receiving the calling and started taking out all the rosaries and rings that people had given her for the Blessed Mother to kiss, suddenly Conchita heard her name, and there was the Blessed Mother with the child Jesus. Conchita said, "I've come to bring you the rosaries for you to kiss." Virgin Mary replied, "So I see." Conchita had been chewing gum, but the moment she saw the Blessed Mother, she hid it behind her tooth. Virgin Mary said, "Conchita, why don't you give up your gum chewing and offer it up as a sacrifice for the glory of my Son?" And embarrassed, Conchita took out the gum and threw it onto the ground. The Virgin Mary said, "You will remember what I told you on your Saints' Day, that you will suffer very much on earth. Well, I repeat it to you again. Have trust in us, and you will bear it with pleasure for our hearts and for the good of your brethren, and thus you will feel closer to us." Conchita replied, "How unworthy I am, Mother, of so many graces received through you. Even so, you have come to me today to lighten my little cross in which I now bear." Virgin Mary said, "Conchita, I have not come only for your sake. I have come for the sake of all my children, with the desire of bringing them closer to our hearts." Then she said, "Give me everything you have brought for me to kiss." Conchita gave her everything, including a crucifix of her own that she had brought for Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary kissed everything, including the crucifix. Then Virgin Mary said, "Pass it through the hands of the infant Jesus." Conchita did so, and Jesus did not say anything. Conchita said, "I shall take the crucifix to the convent with me." Virgin Mary did not respond to that. After kissing everything, Virgin Mary said, "Through the kiss I have bestowed on them, my Son will work miracles. Distribute them to others." Conchita replied, "Of course I shall do so." Then Virgin Mary said, "Tell me, Conchita, tell me things about my children. I have all of them beneath my mantle." Conchita said, "It is very small. We cannot get them all in." Virgin Mary smiled. And then she said, "Do you know, Conchita, why I did not come myself on June 18th to give you the message to the world? Because it saddened me to tell you it myself, but I have to tell you for your own good, and you are to fulfill it for the glory of God. I love you all very much, and I desire your salvation, and to gather all you here in heaven around the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. You will respond to me, Conchita, won't you?" Conchita said, "Yes, I will. If I were to see you all the time, yes, I would. But if not, I do not know, because I am very bad." Virgin Mary said, "You do your best, and we shall help you. This is the last time you will see me here, but I shall always be with you and with all my children." Then she added, "Conchita, why do you not go more often and visit my son in the tabernacle? Why you let yourself be overcome by laziness, not going to visit him when he is there waiting for you all day and night?" Conchita said, "How happy I am when I see you. Why do you not take me with you now?" Virgin Mary said, "Remember what I told you on your Saints' Day. When you present yourself before God, you must show him your hands full of the good works done by you for the benefit of your brethren and the glory of God. and at present your hands are empty. That was the last time Virgin Mary appeared to Conchita at the Pines. It was very similar to the last message she told Lucia and Fatima when Lucia asked Virgin Mary to take her with her. I'm quite sure this is a very important message that we should all live by. Padre Pio, the famous Italian priest, seer, and stigmata recipient, wrote letters to Conchita. One of them said, "People do not believe you or your conversations with the Lady in White, but they will believe you when it's too late." As I stated, the events in Garabandal are a continuation of the events that happened in Fatima. In Fatima, Lucia's apparition of the Virgin Mary happened on June 18th, 1921. In Garabandal, the first apparition of the angel to the four girls happened on June 18th, 1961, exactly 40 years to the day later. And we know from studying the Bible that 40 years is a very significant number to God. What came out of the Garabandal events were 2 guaranteed prophecies and 1 conditional prophecies. They are called the warning, the miracle, and the chastisement. The warning will be a worldwide event for the illumination of consciousness. It will begin with a visible sign in the sky seen by all, and then there'll be a feeling felt by everyone, a very unpleasant feeling. It'll be so bad that you may wish that you were dead. It's a purification of mankind before the miracle. Each person will see themselves and their soul as God sees them. Each person will see themselves alone with God and the sins they have committed and what their sins have caused to happen. The warning itself will not kill you, but you may die of a heart attack. No one in the world will doubt that the warning comes from God. During the warning, time itself will stand still, and we will have a deep sense of sorrow and remorse for hurting God. We think that it'll last for anywhere from 15 minutes to a half an hour. The miracle, what we know about is that it'll happen within a year of the warning. Conchita actually knows the date of the miracle and will announce it to the world 8 days in advance. She's not permitted to tell the date, but it has said that it will happen on a Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Spanish time between the months of March and May. And it will also coincide with a date of importance to a Christian martyr connected to the Holy Eucharist. This event will be seen in and around the Garabandal area. It will be able to be filmed and televised, but not touched. And the sign will remain until the end of time. All that are present in Garabandal or the surrounding area, any sick, will be cured of all their infirmities. The day following the miracle, Father Andrew's body will be found to be uncorrupt. Following the miracle, humanity will have the opportunity to mend its ways and return to the Lord. If humanity continues to pursue its godless pursuit of materialism we are currently pursuing, then a terrible chastisement will befall in the world. Conchita described the chastisement as having fire above you and fire below you. It'll be a fate worse than what happened during the Great Flood. When will all this take place? Well, in 1963, on June 3rd, 1963, as Conchita was on her way to pray for the soul of Pope John XIII, who had just died, she heard the voice of our mother saying, "After this Pope, there are 3 left, and then it will be the end of the times." Soon after, the Blessed Virgin clarified and said there would actually be a fourth pope, but he would only govern the church for a very short time. This prediction is remarkably fulfilled during the 33-day papacy of Pope John Paul I in 1978. So the other three popes in our Blessed Mother's proclamation would be Pope Paul VI, Pope John Paul II, and Pope Benedict XVI, who has just died on December 31st, 2022. But remember exactly what our mother said. She said that it would be the end of the times, not all times. So I think we can infer that we are entering into a new era. She said that it would also, the events would start to unfold when communism returns. Remember, this was in the 1960s that she told Conchita this. Communism was very strong. Remember, USSR was huge. So where was it going? Well, what we know from history is that in 1991, communism broke up. But now we're seeing a resurgence of communism with communist China, what's going on in Russia, and we're even seeing signs of it in the United States. She also said events will start to unfold when the Pope returns from a visit to Moscow. No Pope has ever been to Moscow. And Pope Francis has been trying to go there since 2017 and is trying to this day. And I think we can see why. I mean, I believe he knows what's coming, and it'll set humanity back on the right course. Said once he returns from Moscow, hostilities will break out in the world. Mainly Russia will unexpectedly overrun many countries in Europe. And when things look to be their absolute worst, which doesn't seem to be very far from now, then God will intervene. So all these prophecies are a bit scary, but they should offer us great hope and joy. We will actually be able to see and correct our behavior and set our course for eternal life with God. I mean, how many of us wonder, are we good enough? Are we doing enough? We'll be able to know. I hope I live for it. At present, Conchita is 74 years old. So my guess, and remember, she's going to announce the miracle, which is within a year of the warning. She's going to announce the miracle 8 days in advance. So my guess, it'll happen somewhere within the next 20 years, if not sooner. Whether or not you believe all this, I don't know. What I hope you will believe is enough to go search it out for yourself. I hope you look at some of the videos that have been captured from the 1960s, the visible communion, the girls in Ecstasy, what was prophesied and what has come to pass. And then look at it all with a very sober and logical mind, and you decide for yourself. I think these messages are very important, and they will come to pass. As I said, all these Marian apparitions are connected with the same message: convert your lives, return to God. And one of our Blessed Mother's most important message was in the first one she gave, is for us just to live good lives. As I stated earlier, there's a lot of video available for you to check out of the girls in Ecstasy back in the 60s. Watch them and tell yourself if you think they're faking. I don't think so. There's also a great resource on Facebook. It's called The Message of Garabandal, and it's led by a gentleman named Glenn Hudson, a personal friend of Conchita. He posts there every day in 15 languages, and he says he will still make time for each and every question asked of him. Always remember what our Blessed Mother told us twice now. When you present yourself before God, you must show him your hands full of the good works you have done for your brethren and the glory of God. Let us never miss the day to fill our hands. So, may God bless you and your family, and I hope to see you real soon with the next one. I think we may visit Akita, what happened in Japan, and then on to Medjugorje. Thank you.